evening, here's the news at 6 on Impact Business Radio, Ibr92.5FM. First, the headlines. Senate moves to ensure national security as Defense Headquarters says over 51,000 terrorists have surrendered in the Northeast. Buhari writes House of Representatives maintains 2022 budget deficit will be financed through borrowings. NYC Director General charges corps members to embrace self-employment options. Ahead of the 2023 general elections, Nigerian Bar Association urges Nigerians to hold elected officials accountable. On the foreign scene, Ukraine urges NATO to send weapons to Kiev before help is too late. Now the news in detail. I am Tuluwale K. Ali. In its efforts to put an end to crime and disunity across the country, the Senate has considered a bill to establish the National Religious Harmony Commission. Moving the motion, a lawmaker, Sadiq Suleiman, said the bill, if approved, will serve as an intervention to promote religious tolerance, peace and harmony in the country. Suleiman noted that the bill will also promote and respect human rights and fundamental freedoms for all, without distinction to race, sex, language or religion. The bill, after consideration, was referred by the Senate President to the Committee on Establishment and Public Service Matters for legislative input.
A bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the National Religious Harmony Commission and for other matters connected thereto 2022 second reading taken, and the bill is referred to the Committee on Establishment and Public Service Matters for further legislative action to report back within 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
President Muhammadu Buhari has written to the House of Representatives seeking an increase in the 2022 budget deficit to be financed through borrowings from the domestic market. In the letter read at plenary today, the Speaker of the House, Femi Gbajabiamila, disclosed that the President also requested for the review of the 2022 medium-term expenditure framework upon which the budget was based. Buhari noted that the new development in both the global as well as the domestic economy necessitated the revision of the 2022 fiscal framework. It will be noted that the total budget deficit is projected to increase from over 900 billion naira to over 7 trillion naira, representing 3.99% of the nation's gross domestic products. Gbajabiamila thereafter referred the letter to the House Committee on Finance for further legislative action. In another development, President Muhammadu Buhari says he will await the outcome of the constitutional review process before presenting the report of the review to the National Assembly for enactment. The President made this disclosure today in Abuja while receiving the report by the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission led by LIS Mbam. The President noted that the review of the vertical revenue allocation formula is a function of the roles and responsibilities of different tiers of government. He also gave the assurance that his administration will immediately subject the reports to internal review and approval processes while awaiting the finalization of the efforts by the National Assembly. Buhari maintained that rather than issuing an executive modification order, as was done in 1992, his government will entrench democratic tenets. The President commended the Commission for doing a great job, even as he placed his unwavering commitment and support to it in carrying out other constitutional mandates. It will be recalled that President Buhari had given assent to Executive Order 11 on National Public Buildings Maintenance and directed all ministries, departments and agencies of government to set up maintenance departments in line with the provisions of the new executive order. According to him, the order now gives legal backing to the country's national maintenance policy.
Maintenance. So I think the first thing to, just whilst we were talking, I just took another look at even this media room and even you will admit that it has received a facelift in the last few months. Some things that were in some state of disrepair have been improved upon, and this is your office. So in terms of Nigerians benefiting, therefore, you are the first, some of the early beneficiaries. As I said in my brief, the policy was approved in 2019. What is instructive that I did not mention was that this is perhaps the first time a Nigerian government has made maintenance a matter of national policy. We always used to discuss it as if it was a cultural and a traditional issue. And Mr. President has addressed it in his speech, saying it's not a culture. It's a major economic objective that government must nurture, must invest in. And Mr. President is now trying to deepen this to all federal schools, federal courts, federal buildings, buildings of ministries, parastatals, departments and agencies, federal hospitals, federal courtrooms. And you can just imagine the turnover in terms of jobs. Now, some of the things that are used in maintenance, washing, detergent, cleaning, brooms, brush, tools, are locally made as well. So the MSMEs who make these things will be a major beneficiary of the uptick in demand for this. You also have, as part of maintenance and facility management, provision of security services, uniforms, employment. So this is just going to release another sector of the economy.
In 2019, the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing presented a policy memorandum to the Federal Executive Council seeking for the approval of a draft national public building maintenance policy, which was granted. The policy set out guidelines for the maintenance of federal government buildings and assets in accordance with professional standards in order to ensure the protection and lasting utilization of the investments that had been made by way of provision of public infrastructure. Since the approval of the policy by the Federal Executive Council, the federal government has consciously started the implementation of maintenance and strategic facilities like the Federal Secretariat in Abuja, Federal Secretariat in 24 states of the Federation, where at least 40 people are now daily employed in each of those 24 secretariats in post-rehabilitation maintenance and facility management. The office, in order to ensure the fullest implementation and impact of the policy, it is my pleasure to sign this executive order that ties maintenance direct to our economy. By this order, I expect ministries, departments, and agencies to set out and ensure the operation of their maintenance departments and make necessary procurement for their maintenance in accordance with the provision of the Public Procurement Act.
Stakeholders have charged economic movers and decision makers in the southwest to shift the focus of the region to the emerging global market in the solid minerals and agricultural sector. In a chat with IBR's Ayodele Fakeye, they noted that the move becomes pertinent in a bid to revamp the economy of the region and that of Nigeria.
The search for the country's sustainable development has prompted a Southwest Stakeholders Forum on the prospects of agricultural and mineral resources sectors. This is to awaken the economic consciousness of Nigerians, especially the Southwest region, to the robust benefits of revamping the agricultural and mineral resources sector. Speaking at the event, the Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde, represented by the Executive Assistant on Administration, Idowu Ogedengbe, said the state government is committed to collaborating with all the necessary sectors to ensure the development of the state.
We are committed to ensuring that we construct the necessary road access in all the various local governments, apart from the ones that the local government will be constructing. As a state government, we also have commitments to the Rural Access Agricultural Marketing Project, RAMP, which very soon is going to take off across all the various critical agricultural zones of Oyo State. Our infrastructural development vision is to target the economy of Oyo State, the critical segments and sectors that are contributing to our GDP. We want to ensure that we facilitate infrastructural development with a view to enhancing our GDP as a state.
Also, Nigeria's former ambassador to the Philippines, Dr. Yemi Farambi, reiterated the fact that the country is in dire need of industries that will ensure the country's economic growth and development.
We are going to go at the economy. Then we have to do what a few other countries have done. Look at the geological survey of Nigeria and look at the southwest. There is no local government of the 117 that is put in the constitution that hasn't a mineral resource. Not one. As a matter of fact, we know that the bulk of the gemstones that we import into this country were carried away as laterite from Oyo North. So all we need to do for our economy to grow, to expand, is to look at these mineral resources in each of the local governments. Instead of exporting them as raw materials, can we begin to refine and process them?
Similarly, an elder statesman, Balia Ekotedo, Elder Taye Ayorinde, said it is unfortunate that the country has lost a lot of industries which ought to be of benefit to the country, adding that the event is a wake-up call.
When I was growing up, I used to know of the Western region as a state where the best among the rest of the states in Nigeria, education-wise, take it, is here. Industry is here. Cocoa house, look at it, built from cocoa money. But unfortunately, most of these have gone to the dogs. Why? Because of the jaundiced political situation in the country, because of the fraudulent constitution, because of the managers of the country called Nigeria that are not performing as laid down by God, where honesty is desired, where progress is infused even into the young ones. And that is why this exhibition is necessary.
Enhancing the agricultural and mineral resources sector will invariably put the nation on the path of sustainable economic development. Ayodele Fakeye, Impact Business Radio News.
The Defense Headquarters has revealed that a notable commander of the Boko Haram terrorists, alongside 51,114 other terrorists, have surrendered to troops of the Operation Adinkai in the northeast. The Director of Defense Media Operations, Bernard Onyeko, made this known today in Abuja while addressing newsmen on the operations of the military. Onyeko noted that the surrender of the commander is significant. The Defense Director also disclosed that the surrendered terrorists have been documented, while recovered items have been handed over to the appropriate authorities for further action. Onyeko urged the troops to sustain the tempo even as he ensured that the Nigerian army would not relent in its efforts to rid the nation of crimes and criminality. In the meantime, the Senate has called on the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs to liaise with the Ghanaian government to strengthen bilateral relations between both countries. This is as the lawmaker noted that the move will prevent the maltreatment of Nigerians in Ghana. In a motion sponsored by the Joint Committee on Health, Secondary and Tertiary, the Primary Health and Communicable Diseases and Foreign Affairs, the Senate called for the investigation on the fake COVID-19 test results being used to defraud Nigerians in Ghana. Chairman of the Joint Committee, Yaya Olori-Egbe, said the move becomes necessary following the exploitation of Nigerians at Ghana International Airport. It will be noted that the Ghanaian authorities had diagnosed Nigerians who traveled to their country of testing positive for COVID-19 even after testing negative in Nigeria. It further subjected Nigerians to a compulsory 2-week isolation at 70,000 naira daily.
The issue against number 5, which is linking travel portal with airline database. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control Verification Portal, which hosts all validated PCR tests for outbound passengers, will be made visible to the airline so that verification can be done by the airline staff. We also ask about, that's number 6, electronic verification of COVID-19 vaccination card. The Presidential Standing Committee noted the problems associated with the current vaccination card, as some fail to verify or show incorrect data. In addition, there are claims of fake vaccination cards being issued around the country. The PSC will take up these issues and ensure that the relevant agencies develop security measures to ensure the security and authenticity of vaccination card issued to residents. 1. That the Federal Ministry of Health and the Presidential Steering Committee should develop an exit protocol for all outbound passengers where the authentication of the vaccination cards and PCR results certificate are conducted at the airport. This is to avoid any possibility of using fake certificate or fake cards. 2. That the Federal Ministry of Health, through its port health services, should keep records of all fake COVID-19 test results detected pre-departure and arrival of passengers and report same to relevant security agencies for prosecution. This follows number 1. Once number 1 is done, it is easy to detect any fake presentation of results or vaccine cards, and the issue of prosecution will come up. Number 3, that the Federal Ministry of Health, through its Port Health Services Department, should link PCR result platform with the airline platforms to ensure effective coordination and detection of any fake PCR test results being used. And 4, that the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs should liaise with the Ghanaian government to strengthen bilateral relations that will prevent a recurrence of any illegal treatment of Nigerians entering Ghana. And 6, that the Presidential Steering Committee should consider the reduction of cost of PCR testing for those who still require it for travel purposes.
Away from that, the Nigerian Bar Association has urged Nigerians to hold elected officials accountable ahead of the 2023 general elections. Speaking today in Calabar, the chairman of the association in Cross River State, Ata Ochinke, noted that it is the right of Nigerians to question the leaders they electorally empowered to represent them in steering the affairs of the country. Ochinke also urged the people to participate in democratic governance by standing up to make their point when the occasion demands. He emphasized the need to raise the political consciousness of the people to see their votes as same as hiring people that will conduct their affairs. Ochinke added that it is high time the people interrogate the plaguing issues besetting Nigeria as a nation, including the electoral process. The Director General of the National Youth Service Corps, NYSC, Ibr92.5FM, has urged corps members to embrace self-employment options. Ibrahim made this known today while speaking with corps members at the NYSC Permanent Orientation Camp in Abia State during the closing ceremony of the 2022 Batch A orientation. The Director General noted that self-employment will help them after their service, since white-collar jobs are no longer easy to come by in the country. He pointed out that the NYSC Skill Acquisition and Entrepreneurship Development Program was carefully designed to equip corps members for self-employment and wealth creation after the service year. He commended the corps members for the level of enthusiasm they demonstrated during the vocational and entrepreneurial training conducted in the camp, and encouraged them to build on the skills acquired by availing themselves the opportunities for post-camp training. Ibrahim also enjoined them to brace up for the task of the next phase of the service year, having completed the orientation course. The management of the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, has announced an extension of its mid-semester break by another 4 weeks. In a statement today, the registrar of the university, Margaret Omosole, blamed the extension on the ongoing strikes by the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, and other staff unions in the Nigerian university system. It will be recalled that the university had earlier asked the students to proceed on a 2-week break following the crisis which rocked the institution. With the latest developments, students have been directed to continue with the mid-semester break for 4 weeks, beginning from Monday, 11th of April. It will be recalled that the Academic Staff Union of Universities had embarked on strike, causing academic activities to be paralyzed in many federal universities. Oluwayemisi Okweodu is here with business news for today.
Business. The federal government says it has concluded plans to give interest-free loans to 98,000 beneficiaries of its restructured government enterprise and empowerment program known as GEEP 2.0. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadiya Umar Farouk, says the decision followed the final verification of Phase 1 applicants who qualified and were selected to benefit from small loans ranging from 50,000 naira to 300,000 naira. She said the beneficiaries of GEEP 2.0 will receive congratulatory and sensitization text messages in the coming days, informing them of their qualification. In another news, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has imposed huge fines on some commercial banks which failed to effect the restriction on cryptocurrency transactions. The Apex Bank claimed that cryptocurrencies were being used to facilitate scams, money laundering, terrorism financing, and other criminal activities. It will be recalled that the CBN in February 2021 directed deposit money banks, non-bank financial institutions, and other financial institutions to identify persons or entities involved in cryptocurrencies and ensure that such accounts are closed immediately. But some banks were said to have flouted the directive, and in turn, the Apex Bank slammed them with fine. That's all we have for you in the business segment for today. I am Uluwayemisi.
Thank you, Yemisi. It's over now to our editorial review for today.
The Guardian newspaper editorial for today pays close attention to the privacy of citizens' data. This follows the federal government's directive to link the national identity number to all subscribers' identification module, which failure to do so leaves SIM cards barred. According to the paper, report has that President Muhammadu Buhari gave approval to some security agencies for the access of database of the National Identity Management Commission in course of carrying out their duties, which has instigated questions of what the motive of the government is, if it's about security concern or to monitor citizens' actions. The paper notes that the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, filed a suit at the Federal High Court, Lagos, asking the court to determine whether the approval of security agencies to access people's personal details via the NIN without due process is consistent with the principle of legality, necessity, and proportionality, which allows citizens hold opinions and exercise freedom of expression without arbitrary or legal interference or attacks. This move is to keep the government on its toes against arbitrary actions and also to let citizens know that they have the liberty to challenge government's actions that they are not comfortable with in the court of law. The paper concludes by urging the government to ensure that all actions taken must stand the scrutiny of legality, openness, and fairness, and would not trample on citizens' rights, stating that this surreptitious approval of access to citizens' private data could not seem to meet these standards, hence they need to challenge it legally. On its part, the Punch newspaper editorial for today takes a look at food crisis and insecurity in Nigeria. According to the paper, the international organizations working with the European Union has predicted that food insecurity crisis may push the country further into fragility. It also identifies some factors responsible for the lack of access to food as conflict, climate change, weak economy, and poor governance, which are all present in Nigeria. The paper reveals that Nigeria are traumatized by the frequent act of terrorism, banditry, and kidnapping, which has made farming and other economic activities a most scary and difficult thing for many people. It concludes by admonishing African leaders to be proactive. It also calls on President Muhammadu Buhari to rise to his responsibilities by crushing insurgents and criminality as the economy needs to be revived by both federal and state government initiatives. That ends the editorial review for today. I am Johnson Oyebanji.
Thank you, Johnson. Isaiah Akirami is coming up next with stories from the sports desk.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to the sports segment. Spanish Secondary Division side SD Huesca have reacted to allegations made by their former midfielder Kelechi Nwankali. Nwankali was initially suspended by Huesca after returning late from the African Cup of Nations in February. The Azulgranas announced the sacking of the player this week with few months to the end of the season. In a statement released by Nwankali, the player claimed that Ruben Garcia, Huesca's sporting director, tried to prevent him from going to the African Cup of Nations as it wasn't an important tournament in his book. The former Arsenal player also said Huesca pressured him to sign a new contract, even withholding pay to try and force his hand. Away from that, Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp has said a victory for his team at Manchester City on Super Sunday would not mean the Premier League title is theirs, and that the club must focus on winning all of their remaining games to ensure success.
If you win against City, obviously it's already difficult enough. I think nobody would think, okay, that's it, decided, because quality of the opponent. We've played now against the best team in the world, that's how it is, but we will give it a try anyway, and that's it pretty much.
The match in Manchester is being billed by many as a title decider, with a City win giving them a 4-point lead with 7 games to go, while Liverpool would overtake their rivals by 2 points with a victory. In other news, former world number 5 Joe Wilfred Tsonga has announced he will retire from tennis after this year's French Open. The 36-year-old has won 18 ATP singles titles and reached the 28th Australian Open final, losing to Novak Djokovic. Tsonga turned professional in 2004 and reached his only Grand Slam final 4 years later, losing in 4 sets to Djokovic in Melbourne, as the Serb claimed the first of his 20 major titles. The Frenchman made it to the semi-finals twice at both the French Open and Wimbledon and finished runners-up to Roger Federer at the ATP finals in 2011. Tsonga won Olympic silver in the men's doubles against Michael Laudrup at London 2012 and was part of Francis Davis Cup triumph in 2017. And lastly in sport, former US Open champion Dominic Thiem has pulled out of next week's ATP Masters tournament in Monte Carlo due to COVID-19. The 28-year-old who twice finished runners-up at the French Open and once at the Australian Open before winning the 2020 US Open title contracted the virus at an ATP Challenger Tour event in Marbella in Spain last week. Playing his first match in 9 months since suffering a wrist injury at the 2021 Mallorca Open, former world number 3 Thiem went down in straight set to Argentine Pedro Cachiel in Marbella. Also, Wimbledon finalist Matteo Berrettini will also be out of the Monte Carlo Masters and subsequent Masters 1000 event in Madrid and Rome next month after undergoing a minor operation on his plain hand last week following his withdrawal from Miami. That's all we have for you in the exciting world of sport. My name is Isaiah Akinremi.
Thank you, Isaiah. On the foreign scene, Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba has urged members of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, to send weapons needed to Kiev. In a statement today, Kuleba asked the organization to act quickly before Russia launches another major offensive. The minister lamented that many people have been confirmed dead, with civilians losing their homes and villages destroyed. This is coming as Ukraine is pushing the West to increase its arms supply with heavier weaponry, including air defense systems, artillery, armored vehicles, and jets, as Moscow refocuses its offensive on the east of the country. Arno Oluwakwo Morinde has more stories from the foreign scene.
Rwanda has been enlisted among the African countries that have been facing soaring food prices due to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Data has also shown that Russia wheat accounted for 64% of Rwanda's total wheat imports. Teddy Kaberuka, an economist analyst, speaks on this development.
The Ukrainian war has, it was a big shock on the international market for different commodities. We saw it in the last maybe 5 weeks, where the price has gone very incremental.
A data released by the country's Ministry of Trade and Industry in 2020 indicates that the country spent over $44 million United States dollars in importing 177,740 tons of wheat, up from 159,350 tons in year 2019. Rwandan Prime Minister Edward Ngirente, in middle of March, said the heavy reliance on wheat imports has forced the landlocked small country to look for an alternative importer. Elsewhere, children in Ethiopia are dropping out of school in drought-stricken areas as they are forced to leave their homes and seek refuge. More than 400 schools have been closed and 727 are only partially open.
Our school is closed due to drought. I miss my school life, teachers and classmates so much. I expect the reopening of schools.
The United Nations is on the ground trying to set up a system to provide protection and education to the children. Gianfranco Rotigliano, UNICEF's representative in Ethiopia, says more than 500,000 children have dropped out of school.
500,000 children have dropped off of school. So we are trying to set up a system that is called BETE, that is education and protection, where children can go, they can get basic education there, and they can get also psychological assistance and protection assistance.
Nearly 7 million people in the drought-hit regions are affected after a third failed rainy season devastated other communities. Hanuluakbo Moride, Impact Business Radio News.
Thank you, Arno Luakbo. The news was produced and edited by Mary Ojo. I am Toluwaleke Ali. Good evening, and thank you for listening.
It's all about business, entertainment, inspiration, qualitative and informative news, educative program on the go. It's Nigeria's first business radio, IBR. Impact Business Radio, 92.5 FM. We mean business.
sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong. I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on. No, it won't be long till I'm gonna need some